Cool. Excellent. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hey, Eric.
I have to start out saying that your score for Marty Supreme is one of my absolute favorites of the year, especially as someone who grew up in the 80s.
Thank you.
I've been listening to it nonstop for weeks. It's
How
great.
does it
Right.
work how does it work as a sort of listen on its own
Oh,
outside the film?
it's fantastic. I listen to it
Great.
while I'm driving, while I'm house cleaning,
Oh, great.
because it has that energy.
That makes
It's
me really happy. Yeah.
I mean, ever since I was a child, movie scores were always something that were constantly in rotation and in play. So, I mean, there's several this year that I'm obsessed with, and this just, yeah, very top of the list.
Thank you.
And kind of on that note, the film uses several 80s songs. And was the style of the score also feeling like that era part of your early talks with Josh?
There was a kind of I guess it was a version of the script that was pretty far along, but without going into super detail, there was there was indications even within the score that uh Tears for Fears might be involved um and other sort of moments over the years really that I've talked to Josh about Marty Supreme where he was very open to and sort of liberal about his idea of what the score might sound like and it really unlocked for me um, during a spotting session, and I was listening to the film. I closed my eyes and listened, and I heard so many things happening in tandem. But I have the touch, the Peter Gabriel song, and the game itself, the speed and the buoyancy and the lightness and the mercurial nature of the character and his energy, the energy that only a young person has and I linked the character's energy to the game, to the needle drop, and it kind of occurred to me that mallet sounds would be really great in either case. Even if they were organic, even if they were using real vibraphones, that was a consideration for a bit. But what's so interesting about mallet sounds and vibe sounds is they were really, really one of the central sounds of 80s pop in a way because there was all these new sampler instruments like the Fairlight and the synclavier, and they were really interested in seeing what real organic instruments would sound like um, in that context and with the envelopes changed and all of that kind of stuff. So you hear digital mallets and digital vibes and bell sounds and all of those things throughout the canon of new wave music. And that was really kismet. The locking together of all of those elements at once while I was kind of listening to the film was amazing and unlocked the entire score for me.
I love that. And that kind of feeds what I was going to ask about. You've worked with Josh on previous films and what your collaboration process is like with him in writing music, either before the film is finished, once it's finished, or in the edit process.
It's just ongoing, and it's partially because we're very close and we've known each other for a long time, and so the conversations never really end. They just kind of one project will flow into another, and I never, presuppose that I'm going to be working on it. I don't assume, but slowly as we get a little bit closer to him shooting and he's talking about things, I'm like, oh, you're talking to me quite a bit now about this. All right, that's interesting. Um, so once it kind of solidifies and I'm on the project, go into a research mode usually while he's shooting. And research mode for me is almost kind of a weird archival, almost like quasi-librarian phase where I'm collecting tons and tons of sounds and throwing stuff at the wall and making 15, 30-second videos of my my screen in my studio while a sequence plays, or
Nice.
and sending him a clip after clip after clip. It's never developed in music. It's always really just, hey, does this texture hit at something emotional that we want to live with for the rest of our lives in this thing? Because it's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to twist and turn in our beds 25 years ago saying, why did we use that sound or whatever? So we are we're achingly obsessed with this stuff.
I love it.
And then we just kind of start it's a slow chipping away process. It's a forging process, and we get there at some point.
What I think I love about this score the most is how evocative it is. Hoff's sounds like Heather's beats Blade Runner,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
Motherstone reminds me of Desperately Seeking Susan, like
Yes.
just
Yes.
like that Thomas Newman, like ching
That's
ching
right.
ching 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 ching, absolutely phenomenal. But it never feels like it's lifted. So can you talk about your influences and how you make
Yes.
something your own?
This is the first time I knew I didn't it was probably inevitable, but I'm so happy that it happened sooner than later that someone clocked my Thomas Newman obsession. I love both New. I mean, there's more than two Newmans actually, but
Sure.
David, his '80s soundtracks are really cool too. Thomas, I got into because I had never seen Angels in America, and my girlfriend showed it to me last winter, and I was sobbing, and I couldn't stop thinking about the theme, and then I started going layer by layer into Thomas's entire career. And I think he is a complete pioneer and a master. I think
Yep.
he defined the sound of curiosity and enchantment for an entire generation, if not an entire epic and an idiom of music. And he needs a lot more credit, I think, than he deserves for that. But yes, Thomas Newman, absolutely. And is particularly his '80s stuff. Carter's early stuff, Carter
Yeah.
Burwell's early
Yeah.
stuff, his use of the Fairlight, yeah, a King early '80s King Crimson with intense polyrhythms, um, and getting rhythm out of melodic phrases. That was a big influence. I would say a whole panoply of new age records, and one that I didn't actually ever listen to, but somehow determined that must have been in my subconscious, which is the Rain Man soundtrack.
Oh wow.
Hans Zimmer's score to Rain Man is incredible, and about halfway through the process of scoring Marty, I turned around and asked Josh at some point, have you ever heard the Rain Man soundtrack? Do you think this sounds like the Rain Man soundtrack? He was like, I can't really remember. And he goes, can you remember? And I was like, no, but vaguely. And we put it on and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And there's a resonance there. So yeah, those were some of the things that were kind of going through our minds during it.
I love that. I love that callback to Rain Man and Hans Zimmer, because you think mostly about his science fiction and action based and even animated stuff, but his straightforward drama still pulls from his, Giorgio Moroder
Yes.
electronic era in the coolest way.
Yeah, and it's been a while, but I think of Hans Zimmer equally as someone who came up as like as a studio, brilliant studio innovator, musician, band member guy
Yeah.
that kind of moved over, kind of like Danny Elfman. I mean,
Yes.
there's a kind of a lineage of composers uh, that end up in film usually are in pretty sophisticated and strange bands. Um, and I relate to them, of course, on some level.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was going to make one more a call out that I really loved.
Sure.
In the review, my reviewer likened Marty to a bit of like a Barry Lyndon-esque cad, and
Mm,
Holocaust Honey is
mm.
like electric Barry Lyndon. It's
Yeah, that
incredible.
kind of Purcell, Henry Purcell piece and Barry Lyndon. Yeah, the it's interesting.
Love
So
that.
Holocaust Honey, something a lot of people aren't um picking up on is that piece is it's a piece by Constance Demby, who's like a new age superstar. And we did a kind of our own bizarre arrangement. It's actually adheres to the original really well in some ways, which was a complete headache for Josh Eustace, one of my producers who notated it note by note this extremely a dense contrapuntal piece that Constance Demby wrote. But yeah, it's a piece that we loved and considered almost as a needle drop because we loved it so much, but it didn't
Yeah,
quite have it wasn't hugging the elements quite like we wanted to. The cue involves two different settings, and the idea is that once we're in the hotel room with Marty and Kay, they're almost circling each other like a toreador and a bull or something. They're like they're engaging in a kind of a dance together. There's a back and forth, and so we needed some fine-tuned control over the elements in the music. But did Constance Demby's piece was perfect. So that's where that comes from.
that's fantastic. So you did the score for The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow earlier this year. You
Mhm.
released a new album last month, which is great, by the way.
Thank you.
Storm Show. I love it.
Oh,
Love it.
thanks.
And now you have Marty Supreme coming. What type of overlap do you have when you're working on multiple projects?
Well, this year was insane. I don't think I certainly didn't plan it that way. I don't wouldn't would not like to repeat a back to back to back kind of year, but it was just one of those situations and when all three projects are calling you for and they're just it's a vocation. It's not a job. It's like you just called to action somehow and you just feel like it's something your heart wants to do.
Yeah,
And so I did it and I have to actually really, really thank my girlfriend Amy for putting up with it because it's a lot. And the overlap, to answer your question, is managed because I have a lot of great help. I have an amazing co-producer and engineer who also mixes all of my stuff, and I trust him. He's a great producer. He's a great musical confidant and friend, Nathan Salen. Um, and so we can kind of divvy up tasks. I also brought in Josh Eustace, um, who's worked on many films, but he's better known as Telephone Tel Aviv. Makes really interesting, really deep electronic music. Um, and he helped out with some of the setting up of Marty while I was finishing up Tranquilizer and researching Marty. He was creating projects, he was putting things together, getting a bare bones idea in place so that I could kind of have something to play off of. Um, and so that was how it got done. I mean, I could never do it on my own. I could never do that
sure.
much stuff on my own.
I love it. Daniel, thank you so much. I can't wait for the public at large to be able to hear this
Can't wait.
and enjoy it as much as I have. So thank you so much for chatting today.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.